Welcome, dear listeners. I'm Jonathan Carlin.
And I'm Benjamin Carlin.
And we invite you to join us through the Griffin door, your one-way ticket to the enchanting world of Harry Potter. So grab your wands and dust off your broomsticks and join us as we unlock the riddles inside Goblet of Fire, Chapter 11, Aboard the Hogwarts Express.
Jay, all I can say is about gosh darn time.
It's about time we're at Hogwarts, man.
We are at Chapter 11.
I know. We're at Chapter 11. We're still not there. We won't get there until 12, really.
Until 12, yes. And just as a reminder, Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone only has 17 chapters.
So if you were only getting to Hogwarts at Chapter 12, like that was like Harry going to the sorting, the entire plot would happen within 5 chapters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, although, to be fair, Chapter 17, The Man with Two Faces, does start with Harry entering the chamber that conceals the Mirror of Erised.
Yeah.
And ends with him back in London with the Dursleys.
I know. I always remember like the like in writing class, like in 6th, 7th grade, where you'd have like the the plot and then the rising action and the climax and then the falling action and then the resolution.
Yes.
All that stuff. And I'm like, Sorcerer's Stone manages to put the climax, the falling action, and the resolution all in one chapter.
Yes. Right there at the end. Right there at the end.
Meanwhile, this one has spent some time just getting to Hogwarts.
Do you even remember, if this is your first pass, do you even remember who Bertha Jorkins even is at this point?
I know, right? Like,
do you remember Harry's dream?
Right? That almost has. I think that's a huge part of the explanation for why it takes so long. It is like you are dumped in immediately, and because of the way the other books start, it's like you don't even. It doesn't really feel like the book has started until chapter 2 because that's how the other books start.
Right. Yes.
It almost feels like a dream to you too.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. I think that effect is working extremely well. And just for funsies, I did go and I pulled up the film to see how long it took to get to this moment. Inside of the film, it takes 13 minutes, 46 seconds to get here.
13 minutes? Well, they don't even do the Dursleys in Goblet of Fire.
They
just start walking to the portkey.
They start with Harry waking up, I think, in the bed.
Okay.
Yeah. But like Hermione's already there, and it's like, we got to go. And then they walk off or whatever. But yeah, but we don't see any Quidditch World Cup or whatever. So it's just, I was like, man, it is remarkable to me. But this is a book that, especially from like a film adaptation standpoint, there's a lot you have to do.
There is a lot. This is one like because they're redoing the series on HBO, and it's like it feels like the first maybe 3 books could feel really long as a TV show.
I could see that.
But then you get to like this book, and it's like this is the one where the long format will really shine.
Well, yes. That's where like the question will start to arise, where it's like, is 10 hours enough?
Right.
To tell Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix.
Right,
yeah. Because all of a sudden you've got like a lot of details.
Yes.
So anyway, but yeah, chapter 11, Aboard the Hogwarts Express. Obviously, we got to talk about the chapter art.
Obviously. I think this one very, like, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but there is, like, it almost has, like, the lightning bolt scar on it. I
wrote, hey, Harry Scar.
Harry Scar right there, yeah.
Yeah, so what you're seeing, in case you can't see it in front of you, is a pile of luggage with an owl, presumably based on the size Hedwig, because if it was Pigwidgeon, it would have to be, like, maybe a quarter the size, all inside of a whole bunch of rain and thunder and lightning.
Yes.
Getting ready to hop aboard the Hogwarts Express.
Yes. Or I guess maybe this is them getting off, right? Because
like at the castle?
Like at the castle.
Yeah, that makes sense too.
Yeah, because that's where it's like raining. It is like it's a different scene because it is normally going to Hogwarts is like this joyous, huge Harry's going home thing.
Yes.
And the artwork, on the other hand, is like aboard the Hogwarts Express, but it is surrounded by gloom. So it's like a very foreboding kind of like something bad might happen this year, which of course it will. And even the first sentence of the chapter is, there was a definite end of holidays gloom in the air when Harry awoke the next morning. It's like, since when? Since when has Harry ever felt gloom about the end of summer?
I know. Yeah. It's like, this is like, Harry, if you have a better home life, is Hogwarts not your home?
I know.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Which, I mean, I say that out loud as if it's like as if Ron's home isn't the Burrow.
Right, yeah. It's definitely better living at the Burrow, going to the greatest sporting event in Wizard history, you know?
Yes. I asked that though, as if I was totally like slamming Harry, like, haha, Hogwarts isn't your home anymore. It's like, wait, no, that's what's
That's a
sad.
good
That's
thing.
that's what's sad about it.
Yes, that's what's sad about it. That's another difference between like him and Voldemort, though. Like Voldemort never has that sense of home outside of Hogwarts.
Right,
Whereas
right.
Harry does have at least one other place where it is like, I feel at home here.
Yes. Under the Dursleys, man. Talk about like, what if Ron was in Hufflepuff? It all starts with if Harry's home was the Dursleys, or not the Dursleys, the Burrow.
It does. Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's kind of an interesting thought too, is that like, I never really thought about this, but like you never really know of anywhere that Voldemort like has as his own place. Like even when he returns, it's not like he has his own castle like Grindelwald had or something. He doesn't have like Voldemort, hall or something. It's just he's at the Malfoys. He doesn't have his own home like ever.
I mean, do you think that there's a world where like that's part of like why he's conquering? Is like he's not trying to take over a high school. He's trying to make the castle his house.
I mean, I don't think that's not part of it. Yeah.
Do you think Voldemort would live at Hogwarts? Oh man. If he won?
Oh, I bet, yes.
I bet he would live there.
I bet he would. Because the thing about Hogwarts is like it's not like other like regular schools. It is like all students, like all education in the entire country for this population passes through here.
Right.
It is the source of all education. So it is like if you can control the school, you can control a ton.
It's easy to overlook that, but you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's like you control the bottleneck where everybody who then goes on to be fully grown, fully trained wizards has their complete perspective on the greater world built from.
Yeah.
So they're highly pliable during that period of time. And if you're Voldemort and you're very persuasive and powerful, you could probably, I could see where this would start to turn out like, the UK is just step one.
Right, exactly. But then even like when he is about like he tortures Neville at the end with the sorting hat and like sets it on fire and stuff. Like he says like there will be no more sorting at Hogwarts. Like Slytherin will be good enough for everybody. And it's like, well, there's no more sorting. There's not even like Slytherin. It's just you're just Hogwarts.
You're just Hogwarts, yeah.
But like even that is like he still wants to adhere to some kind of like school spirit or something. It's like, why isn't it just House Voldemort, Like
So now all I'm imagining is Voldemort living in the room of requirements and and just having like Slytherin signage everywhere.
just everywhere.
Yeah, like a dorm room, but it's just comically over decorated.
Way
with like,
overdone.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he just sort of like frolics.
Yep.
In his
frolics.
in his like Slytherin slippers and PJs.
Exactly. In other words, you know what? If nothing else, he's got school spirit.
He's got school spirit. That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we can go ahead and dive on into the chapter here.
We can.
Well, I guess you sort of already did. You covered the definite end of holidays gloom in the air.
Yes, we talked about that. And let's see. Then we head downstairs where we're going to set up some foreshadowing for Sirius later. But Amos Diggory's head is sticking out of the fireplace, and he has some urgent news regarding one Mad Eye Moody.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like just go back to your point about Sirius really quick. This book I think is really, really, really big on introducing you to concepts that are going to be plot relevant down the line, and maybe that's another reason why we've built out such a beefy
ramp to Hogwarts here.
Ramp to, yeah, exactly. Yeah, well phrased. Is because like we needed to introduce ourselves to like port keys and a lot of like the important people at a sporting event who might also be overseeing
a different sporting event.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like you're being introduced to like a cast of characters in this very like innocuous way, but it's sort of like I need a way for you to meet Ludo Bagman and Barty Crouch
and Winky.
And for you to become vaguely aware, because I'm going to continue to sprinkle it in as we go forward.
Right, the Dark Mark, the Death Eaters.
Yes. Durmstrang, Bobaton.
Yes,
like
all of that.
Yes, there's like a lot of like big chunky like, hey, I'm going to use these later, and I know that I haven't told you about them yet, but you need them. this is required reading.
Right, yeah. So that like when it hits you later, you're like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with that already.
Yes.
I know that word. I know that character a little bit.
Right, yes. So anyway, but so the Sirius will eventually obviously come to Harry to talk about the first task and his name being dropped in the Goblet of Fire. And this is sort of like hey, this technology exists.
Yes, this technology exists. You know, when we use floo powder, you can like partially floo yourself places.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
How it works or why you can feed somebody toast through it, who knows?
Well, okay, I was going to talk about that because like this is another thing in the Goblet of Fire movie that I hate, where the way in which Sirius appears in the fire.
Oh yes,
like,
he's like the coals.
He's like the coals or the logs or whatever. Completely ridiculous. That's not how it works. Like, and you're right, because Mrs. Weasley feeds Amos toast. Like his head is there. Like his actual head is in the fire. The fire. Right? Like it's not like a picture of him. It's not like a floating ethereal head. His actual head is sitting in the fire.
Right.
Like right there. And that is how she's able to feed him toast, because it's like it's there. Like even when I read this as a kid, like I always sort of imagined him sort of like floating, his head like floating kind of up in the flames or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Like
that's sort of what I pictured. Yeah, as well.
But I don't think that's it.
Like his head is physically there.
His head is physically there. It has to be, because he eats the toast.
So
and like that's how floo powder works. Like you're physically there.
That's true. That's true. I mean, it's almost like a magically verified version of splinching.
Yes.
It's like yes, literally a piece of you will be somewhere else, but like it's okay.
But it's okay because you're still tethered, you know,
through the floo
fire.
Yeah,
exactly.
Although the next question that it sort of like requires you to ask, because even though this is good setup for Sirius later, and I guess to be fair, it could be rude to just go like trouncing into someone's home.
Yeah.
So maybe the fact that you might use this like head calling network is a bit more like respectful.
Yeah.
Because like if, Molly walked downstairs into the kitchen and Amos was just like sitting at their kitchen table, I'd be like, "What you doing, friend?"
Oh, I know. Like it's part of you is like, why doesn't he just come all the way through and have a conversation?
It's a fairly instantaneous process. So it's like, it doesn't seem completely unreasonable to think just floo powder there and then floo powder back.
Yeah.
What time are we losing?
I know. And it's like I think when Dumbledore and Harry are going to visit Slughorn, Harry asks Dumbledore, like, why don't we just apparate, into the house? And he's like, oh, because it would be exceedingly rude.
Oh, true. Yes.
Yeah, although you can still imagine a world where Amos maybe just like apparates to outside the burrow and knocks.
And it's just like, hey.
Yeah, that still seems a little nicer than like sticking your head through the fire. Like, who knows who could have been walking downstairs in their pajamas?
Right. No, I know. Yeah, this is like one of those things where it's like it's hard to fully appreciate like what concepts could be like mildly taboo in a world where you don't live alongside the magic that they have.
Yeah,
because it's like I'm trying to think about like the best way to like social niceties may exist like in our world. It's like, why don't you just tell them they don't like look nice today? It's like, because that would be very rude.
Right.
It's like, but you could easily just tell, like they need to know. You could easily just tell them. It's like, no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
It's like that. It's like, it's hard to really fully appreciate what it would be like to live in the world with these things that you're just like, oh, it'd be so easy. You could just be there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But don't do that.
But don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. It also describes Amos's degree. It says his head was sitting in the middle of flames like a large bearded egg. Do you think that's any like dragon foreshadowing? Like, because Cedric has to get the egg from the dragon later.
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. Honestly, it sort of makes me wish that the person under the lake was Amos.
I know, yeah.
Because then it would definitely feel like it's like, oh, look, see, okay, here's the moment where it's like large bearded egg. It's like he has to capture the egg. Like that makes sense. Then like later, it's his dad. Like him and his dad are sort of like linked in this sort of foreshadowy capacity.
I honestly kind of do wish it had been his dad instead of Cho in the lake.
Yeah, I mean, we did a whole series just here recently that was just like, what if Harry had asked Cho to the Yule Ball first under the premise that like it always seems like Cho just would have said yes to Harry.
I know.
Had he asked first. But like it does seem like the speed at which like Cho is sort of regretfully telling Harry, no, like somebody else asked me and I said I'll go, and it's Cedric. Like they're not already an item.
Yeah.
And that happens at Christmas, and the second task is in February.
It's in February.
Yeah, so it's like that's a very short period of time for them to like all of a sudden be like very close.
I know. It feels like, because the way you mostly know Amos Diggory is kind of just this like not like very pompous character.
Yeah.
You know, like obviously it's terrible that Cedric dies, but like if you like if like you don't you know he is very loud and proud about Cedric.
Yes.
And obviously, you know, you just assume, you know, yeah, Cedric loves his dad. But like had his dad been in the lake, it's like so much more tragic than when he comes back and sees him. I know. Right? So I don't know. I think that that would have made more sense.
It would make more sense.
Yeah.
All I can think is that it's well, I was even going to say like it makes it so that everybody under the lake is like relevant to Harry in some way, but that's
Like
even not
shows
true.
already. Yeah.
Yeah, like Harry, he was like, well, I'd like to save her.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it just like it's like more viable than that Hermione's the one down there if Cho's also down there.
I think maybe that's a good point. Yeah, because like we're talking about this as if Hermione's not in the literal same conversation.
Right.
The only major difference there is that we don't meet like Crumb's parents in any capacity, and so the only person that we know that's important to Hermione is.
That's important.
Important to Crumb is Hermione. Hermione. Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, there you go. What do you think? Should it have been Amos instead of Cho?
Yeah, I think it should have been. Yeah.
But anyway, the news he has is that Mad Eye Moody got into a scuffle last night. And it's bad news because it's the first day of school. He's about to start his new job today, but of course, this is like concealed information. You know that he's starting a job, just not what that job is. Which it feels like you, the reader, should be able to connect the dots. Like, oh, they're going back to school, and this is day one, and he's starting a job, and it'll be day one for him. Maybe he's working at the school, but of course, it still comes as a surprise anyway.
It does still come as a surprise anyway. Yep, absolutely. But you also, I think this is like really good setup because it does sort of make you feel like Mad Eye is like a bit more on the like unhinged, paranoid like side of things. So like it'll continue to fit with like other characteristics like, yes, like Mad Eye only drinks from like his own hip flask. Like obviously like that's the paranoia that exists within him that like somebody at the school was probably trying to poison him.
Yeah.
You know, it's
like
like
probably trying to poison him. And he's like, oh, he's performing unforgivable curses on students. It's like, that's because he's hardcore, man.
He's hardcore. Yeah.
He needs them to know he understands in a way that other people don't. And it's not just putting curses on children for fun.
Right. The other thing that I wrote down that I wanted to point out is that like they're talking and, you know, Arthur's like, what does Mad Eye say happened? And he's, you know, loading up his quill and everything. And Amos responds, says he heard an intruder in his yard, says he was creeping toward the house. He was ambushed by his dustbins. I just wanted to know timeline wise how long it had been. But so this was just something I did like a little like checking into. But it's been 1 week since the Quidditch World Cup. And I think it's kind of relevant because in order for this particular event to happen, Barty Crouch will have like gone back to the Crouch family household, and Voldemort and Wormtail will have come to collect him.
Yes.
So that 1 week time span is enough time for that plan to have been put in motion.
Yeah. And it speaks to like the absolute devotion of Barty Crouch Jr. to Voldemort, that he has been like basically, I mean, imprisoned. I mean, I'm sure he hates his dad for having imprisoned him for 13 years now or whatever.
For sure.
But like he gets back to Voldemort and he's just like, and I'm ready to do it. What do you need me to do? Like he doesn't even like need a week's recovery. He's like, yeah, what do you want me to do? Impersonate another person for an entire year and get Harry to the center of the Triwizard Tournament? Got it. I'm in it. I do it. No problem, boss.
No problem. Yeah. So it also makes you wonder if there's a piece of magic that we're missing about, because the way in which he is able to impersonate Mad Eye is like almost too good for someone who hasn't spent like months and months and months studying him.
Yeah. Well, he will have months and months to do it because he keeps Mad Eye with him. And he's got him under the Imperious Curse and can, you know, make him, you know, answer questions for him about how he acts and stuff.
Well, I guess he can do that, but like even from like the moment like he walks into the castle, it seems like, you know, he's kind of got like the swagger down.
He does,
you know. So
Yeah.
I mean, he's picking it up quick.
He is. There's no doubt about that. But you see it throughout the entire story that he is a very fast thinker.
Yes, he definitely is. He
Yeah.
definitely is.
So let's see. But like, it is like skillfully done how much doubt is sowed on Mad Eye. It's like even the fact that his name is Mad Eye. It's like he sounds mad. And then it's like Mr. Diggory's head rolled its eyes. That sows doubt right away. Says he heard an intruder in his yard. Says he was creeping toward the house, but was ambushed by his dustbins. Which what's kind of funny is that it's like there was a commotion and like whatever scuffle happened, there was enough of a commotion that other people showed up. But so then whoever answered all these questions and he says who said this? Says he heard an intruder in his yard. Said he was creeping toward the house, but it was ambushed by his dustbins. That's all Barty Crouch Jr. coming up with that story,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Already.
No. Right.
You're
yes.
already dealing with the wrong person.
Yes, you absolutely are.
Yeah.
Yep. It's also interesting to me that Mad Eye just lives anywhere near where policemen might patrol.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I love what they. Yeah, in case you miss it, Amos doesn't know what the word for policeman is, so it says "please men."
Please
which is
men.
Him mispronouncing policeman.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always think that's funny. Oh, yeah, you're right. It seems like he would just live like off by himself or something.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, even like the burrow, it's like the dustbins to me suggest that like he's on a trash pickup route. So it's like, does Mad Eye like live in like a suburban neighborhood?
It kind of sounds like it.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
he's just like, he's like number 6 Privet Drive.
Right. That would be so funny.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine? Harry's just like there was just the creepiest guy, like two
doors down.
He was
man.
I always felt like he was watching me all the time.
Harry's like, I feel like I've been watched my whole life.
My
it's like
whole life.
you literally have been.
I'm keeping one eye on you, literally.
Yes.
Through the doors, seen all the abuse. Yeah, that'd be bad. But then Mr. Diggory is just clearly, he does not. It's like, it's sort of weird. Like he clearly respects him. Like he really wants to help him out of this situation, but also just kind of thinks he's nutters.
You're definitely right. Yes. Yeah. Like, I mean, it seems like he is absolutely certain that like whatever Mad Eye has come up with is like nonsense.
Yes.
But also is like, he's going to be a good teacher probably.
Yeah.
Like enough to, because I mean, you also have to keep in mind that like Amos is the parent of a student who will be educated by this person.
Right.
Like, so that means he's giving it at least enough of a green light to be like, yeah, he's supposed to start his new job today and I want him to start that job.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'll be a good teacher, but I'm also pretty sure that this is nonsense. And it's like the last time you heard from Amos Diggory, he was being yelled at for his poor judgment on like
Harry Potter
and
Barty
Barty
Crouch.
Crouch.
Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, in that scenario, he was right and being told he was wrong. In this scenario, he's convinced he's right, even though he's wrong.
All right, y'all, we need to take a brief pause right there to let you know that today's episode of Through the Gryffindor is brought to you by Shopify. Now, I probably don't need to clarify, but I'm what you might call an ideas guy. Once I wanted to start a business creating something that I called a wake winch. It's basically a lawnmower engine attached to a welded metal frame that could allow you to water ski without a boat. Brilliant, right? Yeah, other people didn't think so either. But the point is, ideas have never been my personal shortcoming. Execution, on the other hand, is a bit trickier, which is why I'm unfailingly grateful for Shopify. Shopify makes it so easy to take your actually good idea from your brain and put it in front of potential customers the world over. And fortunately for me, I have people like Jay in my life who help me filter out the more, let's call them niche ideas for the ones that might actually work, like our coffee company, for example. And because of the coffee company, we rely on Shopify to run our business each and every day. And honestly, I have zero complaints. So upgrade your business to get the same checkout that we use here with Shopify. And you can sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Griffin. That's all lowercase. Again, go to shopify.com/Griffin to upgrade your selling today. One last time, shopify.com/Griffin, link in the description down below.
So he thinks, it's like, oh, someone creeping into his yard in the dead of night. More likely there's a very shell-shocked cat wandering around. It's interesting that he even mentions there was someone intruding in the yard. Like, because that is what happened. Like, he's saying, oh, I heard someone sneaking into the yard, but like, he's the one who would have been doing the sneaking. You know, like he gives them a version of the truth.
Oh, because he is Barty Crouch.
He is Barty Crouch.
You're
yes.
right. You're right. Yep. That's a very good point.
Yep. But then it's interesting that Amos says, like, think of his record. So it's like, that's the other thing is that, like, even though this situation is the unique one, he clearly has a record of doing these sorts of things.
Right. And that's the part that I don't think, like, totally jives with the Mad-Eye Moody that we will eventually, like, come to know.
Right.
Like, it's kind of like, he doesn't seem like the false alarm kind of person.
Right.
He seems more like the... I was going to say handle it himself kind of person. Maybe that is what's happening. And that is where the problem arises from. It's that like he is always sort of in this like 0 Dark 30 mindset. Like he is always of the opinion that like whatever's happening is like the next most evil dark wizard is attacking.
Yeah, the war never ended for him. Yeah.
But then it works out really well because it works out well for Moody's personality, I guess, because then when we see him in finer form as time goes on, he is in a 0 Dark 30 type of mentality.
Yeah.
The second wizarding world has begun. Voldemort is back.
Right.
So all of his instincts are exactly on point because like, whereas before he was expecting darkness out of nowhere, it's like now there's actual darkness to be feared.
Yes.
Yeah. So that kind of makes sense.
It does kind of make sense.
Do you paint any parallels between him and Frank Bryce?
In terms of what? Like they both kind of have like the stiff leg.
They sort of have the stiff leg. They're both sort of like up in the middle of the night, suspecting danger. In both instances, it is Voldemort.
Right.
You know, they're both victims of both of those situations.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
They're also like Frank was like an old like they're like he had a hard war, Frank.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
like
there is kind of a little bit of that, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe Frank is supposed to be like a little like maybe even that's supposed to be a clue to you, the reader, that it's like, yeah, look what happened to him.
Yeah.
Same situation. It was Voldemort.
It's like a little like wink through the pages. It's sort of like, hey, we've seen this, but like, you know, the last time somebody woke up in the middle of the night and thought something was askew,
it was Voldemort.
It was Voldemort. And here, you know,
it was an old war veteran with a stiff leg. Guess what? Guess what?
Guess what? Here it is.
Here it is again. Are you picking up on the pattern? No, because you don't even remember chapter 1 anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, no, I actually quite like that. That to me feels like if we were given the book in chunks, someone clever enough could have come up with a theory that like, does anybody else think this is weird?
Yeah. I guess you don't know that he has the wooden leg yet.
Not yet, but we will soon.
We'll soon. Yeah. Next chapter. Yep. So anyway, also he says, but they'll have a job proving it if there aren't any casualties. Casualties meaning like dead people? Like that would seem like a whole different situation. There's nowhere you're getting you off. I guess you could mean like people who were hit by spells even, I guess. It's interesting that he says that though, because he himself is the one who used Priori Incantatem on Harry's wand back at the World Cup.
Right. Yeah.
You
It's
know?
like, did you check his wand?
Did you check his wand? Yeah. Like, don't you just go check Mad-Eye's wand and see what happened? You know? Like,
right. Yeah.
I guess they won't find anything because he didn't successfully subdue Peter or Barty Crouch. So,
true.
You know, I guess that'll be the problem.
That's always one of those things too that tells you that Barty Crouch is a pretty gifted wizard because.
Oh, that's the thing. He has been inactive and cursed, sitting. Well, I always assume he's mostly just in bed.
Yeah, that's sort of what I picture too.
Yeah, I guess like is he moving around the house at the Crouch place? I imagine he's almost just like trapped in a room, kind of.
Right.
Still, just a different kind of prison. But he has basically been like he's off the couch, defeating the paranoid Auror Mad-Eye Moody with the help of Wormtail, which you have to imagine doesn't count for much.
You know, now I'm picturing, because like I've done this exact training plan before. It's like couch to marathon training plan. It's like I wonder if like he's sitting there like scrolling on his device and he's like, couch to dark wizard.
Couch to dark wizard.
Okay, I'm gonna need to start putting in some reps if I'm gonna be ready for this.
Here we go. Yeah. This guy, he's gonna be pretty tough.
Yeah.
But there we go. Then you get the hint. He's starting his new job today, which is of course as a teacher. Let's see. Then this says like why he had to choose last night. That's good phrasing because it puts the like. That's again. It's like Amos is putting the onus on Mad-Eye. It's like why he had to choose last night to do something crazy, and it's like yeah, it's clearly his fault. This is happening. It's like there's no chance someone there was a scuffle.
Okay, so we talk about this a lot, like with Harry having like really good instincts. Like he can always tell like when he's like being watched or something. He has that like, kind of sixth sense for it.
Yeah.
So this is like bad instincts. It's like why he had to choose last night. It's like, this is so inconvenient for me. Like when he's starting his new job today, it's like, instead of looking at that as like a suspicious piece of information, it's like the night before he starts his new job. I mean, like, come on, that seems weird, right?
Right. Yes. If only Harry had any information about Mad Eye, but this is the first time he's hearing of him. So there we go. Let's see. Moving on. This is where Mrs. Weasley feeds him the toast, which to me means his literal head is there because he eats it.
Right.
It's interesting that she has to put the fire tongs in. Like, is she like... see, I've always thought that's like, oh, because the fire would be hot, but it's like we know that when the floo powder is active, the fire isn't hot.
It feels like warm breath.
It feels like warm breath.
Yeah, which sounds awful.
Which to me instead means that it might be too intimate to like feed him a piece of toast with her hand.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah. That's a good point.
Right.
Especially if this is a fairly normal procedure to be taking place. It's like again, that might be part of the etiquette.
Yeah.
That's the correct way to go about this.
Way to do it.
Because otherwise, like, it's like, if I were to like watch my wife go over and like feed somebody like with her hand, it might be kind of like, that was an odd thing to witness.
It's a weird thing to do. I don't know if you had to do it like that.
There were fire tongs right there that you could have used.
You could have done it, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks,
he said, through toast. Then let's see. Bill walks in and he's like, "What, Matt? What's happening? What's he doing?" So, because of course, Bill is informed enough about the Triwizard Tournament happening, but not that Mad Eye is the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, because he could have let that in. And then George comes in, just doubles down on what Amos was saying, casting doubt. Isn't he that nutter?
Yeah, to which Molly responds, "Your father thinks very highly of Mad Eye Moody." And I love the response from Fred. Yeah, well, Dad collects plugs, doesn't he?
Yeah, I know. Which is, again, more doubt is like, because normally you just take Mr. and Mrs. Weasley very seriously. And it's weird that she says, your father thinks, not like your father and I think very high of Mad Eye Moody. You'd think Molly would think very highly, because he would have been in the Order of the Phoenix with her brothers who died.
Yeah.
Did he catch her brother? Did Mad Eye catch whoever killed her brothers? That's possible.
Fabian and Gideon.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting phrasing to say like your father versus just like we think very highly of Mad Eye Moody, but maybe it's just because that would be like a strange way to say it.
Yeah.
For us, the reader.
Right. I guess so.
We think very highly of Mad Eye Moody.
Yeah. Well, the whole point is just to sow more doubt in you, the reader, I think. And then even it's like at every possible point, it's like, oh, but Dumbledore trusted him, right? It's like, oh, he's an old friend of Dumbledore, said Charlie. Yeah, but Dumbledore's not what you'd call normal, is he?
Right.
Said Fred. And it's like, yeah. Oh, is Arthur a good vouch point? No. Is Dumbledore a good vouch point? No.
But like through the context of this particular conversation, but in reality, yes.
Exactly.
But it's like we're using the tone that's being delivered to use this like information against us, because I mean it goes back to like the Gilderoy Lockhart thing. It's like, why would Dumbledore ever hire him? And it's like, why would he then hire Mad Eye? It's like,
exactly.
Dumbledore trusts him, and it's like
that is just like, yeah, Dumbledore's capable of making poor decisions in this area.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Or what is perceived as a poor decision, because you don't know Harry's a Horcrux yet, or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't know Dumbledore's big plan, but you will. Or you do, I guess, already. This is also the first mention of the word Auror, the career Harry will be pursuing henceforth, the Dark Wizard Catcher.
Yes. And let's see here. Sorry about that.
Yep. No, he says, he's retired, used to work at the Ministry. I met him once when Dad took me in to work with him. He was an Auror, one of the best, a Dark Wizard Catcher. Which is interesting here too, because it's like you're getting this idea that like he used to be one of the best, but now he's kind of troublesome. But it's like that, like Amos is kind of over there like, oh, his record. He's gonna get some kind of charge or whatever. And it's like don't do his years of service count for nothing?
Right,
You know,
right,
it's
yeah.
like clear, like he worked for the ministry, and now the ministry is gonna like go accusing him of stuff. Like,
Well, and yeah, so like that's like the very next line too, is that like half the cells in Azkaban are full because of Mad Eye, and it's like that line alone is enough for us to be like, it's so easy to see how hard it is to suspect Mad Eye ourselves as like, you know, going through the story, that anything would ever be askew with him.
right?
You know, especially compared to a couple of people who are going to pop up later in this very chapter.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, then he says he made himself loads of enemies though. Heard he's being really paranoid in his old age. Doesn't trust anyone. Sees dark wizards everywhere. So yeah, you're right. It's just building the case for like Mad Eye is paranoid. He's always saying crazy things and kind of feeling kind of twitchy about stuff. So that you, the reader, do not suspect him of being the one that is the traitor.
The
or
traitor, yes.
Well, not even traitor, just the Death Eater.
Yeah.
Yeah, the real Mad Eye is not a traitor.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. And then Percy comes downstairs. I love this. Says apologizing most profusely. He really needed to get to work. Sorry, can't see you after school. Can't take the extra hour or whatever. And I love George's response. Yeah, you know what, Percy? I reckon he'll even know your name soon.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mr. Crouch is really starting to rely on me. It's like,
Yes.
yes, indeed. I'm sure he is.
I'm sure he is. Very important, aren't you? Very, very indeed. Let's see. There's another line here where it says Molly has to like brave the telephone to get like Muggle taxis to bring them to King's Cross. And she said Arthur tried to get them ministry cars, but there weren't any to spare. But like that seems odd in itself. Like, why not? Like, is that like because of the like stuff at the Quidditch World Cup? Like, are they like out doing stuff where they're using the cars?
I mean, it almost seems like it has to be the case, because it seems like in just the last chapter we were learning that like Percy and Arthur had barely, it said that, yeah, neither Mr. Weasley nor Percy was at home much over the following week. And I think that's probably exactly what's going on. It's like the ministry is like in full bore investigation mode.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's it. Yeah, I think that's the explanation. Like, it is connected. And then I could not imagine this taxi driver's drive to not the airport, the train station. Where can you imagine if you're driving someone and a bunch of fireworks go off in the car? Like,
no, not at all. I mean,
No.
it's like that feels like if your Uber driver witnessed that, they would probably be like, "Please get out of my vehicle
let's
right
get out
now."
of my car.
Yes.
0 stars. Good luck hailing anyone ever.
You're gonna need to set up a new account. Is what's gonna happen.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Dude, when we were at Disney this past week, we had a 5-star Uber driver with like 1,200 ratings. I was like, dude.
It's like,
I was like, what are we? Is he picking us up in a limo?
Can we take a picture?
I know. No. And it was, you know what? It was a very just a pleasant ride. I've had some 1-star Uber rides before, Ben.
I mean, I know. I've been there with you. Yeah.
You've been with me. Oh, boy, that guy at Universal. My God.
I remember that. I thought we were being kidnapped.
I know.
That's a story for a different day.
Anyway, let's see. So Crookshanks does not like fireworks, scratches everybody up. I can just tell you that I would be so annoyed if this happened to me. If I'm like on the way to school for the first day and I just am covered in cat scratches, I'd be furious.
It's now I gotta start the new term like this.
I know.
Like this? Kind of itchy.
Kind of itchy. Like cat scratches hurt.
They do.
Yeah,
They do.
no
yeah.
doubt.
Yeah. They're so thin.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
yeah,
you know what? It is raining at King's Cross. Maybe the chapter art was right here.
Okay,
Depending on the
okay.
tracing. Yeah. Rain was coming down harder than ever. Man, is it a rainy day.
It is a really rainy day because like it's raining this hard right now in London.
Yes.
They're gonna take the train all the way up to like the heart of Scotland.
Yeah.
Where it will be dumping so hard that it feels like buckets of ice water are being poured on their heads.
Giant storm, Ben.
It is like, this whole area is just being like covered.
I mean, that's the metaphor though. There's a giant storm coming.
Yeah, that's true.
This is a literal giant storm, but it's all Voldemort coming.
It is
It's all
indeed.
hailing here.
I do like this phrase in particular though, as they get into King's Cross Station. It says, Harry was used to getting onto platform 9 3/4 by now. And it's like, okay, see? Used to getting onto platform 9 3/4 by now. It's always platform 9 3/4. But when we go back to book 1 and Molly's like calling over her shoulder and she's like, now what is the platform, dear?
I know. Right?
It's like, well, why are you asking
doing
that
it
question?
like that?
It's always platform 9
Yeah.
3/4.
Yeah.
We know that because Harry has so much experience doing it.
Yes.
Well, and to be fair, it's like it says that he was used to doing it. The first time was the first time he ever did it. The second year, it didn't work
at all.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't have that many reps.
He's really only done it 2 other times.
And only once confidently
Yes. Yeah. So
before now.
I guess that's all it takes. Third time's a charm.
That's it.
Anyway, and then I just thought this was interesting. It says they get onto the platform, and it says a gleaming scarlet steam engine was already there, clouds of steam billowing from it, through which the many Hogwarts students and parents on the platform appeared like dark ghosts. Which I'm like, that's too much steam.
Yeah. It's
right?
like, have we left yet?
I know.
Have we left yet?
Have we left yet?
I'm all for the ambience of the situation.
This train is producing so much steam, the entire platform is covered in fog.
Yes.
Basically, I'm like,
Yes.
what? Like, guys, seems like a little much.
For the vibes, Jay.
For the vibes.
For the vibes.
I know. I'm like, it's called a steam engine. I've never assumed it actually runs on steam. I'm like, this is a magical train. It just runs on magic.
It runs on magic.
You don't need the steam at all. That's just for whimsy, right?
There's just a conductor who's literally like shoveling magic into the furnace.
He's got a big old pile of magic.
Magic rocks.
Magic rocks, just shoving it in there. Exactly. And then everyone who's not going to Hogwarts starts dropping the most infuriating hints imaginable.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, I was like, even just the reader, I'm like, I'm gonna punch someone.
I know.
You know, like this is getting to be too much. Like everybody is being so know-it-all-ish.
So know-it-all-ish, and to no end. What is the harm in just telling them?
I know.
Like, what secret are you keeping?
Right. They're like, I want you to experience it for real.
For real, the surprise. Yeah,
Right.
Everyone's being so annoying though. You're right. It is infuriating. Let's see. I might be seeing you all sooner than you think, said Charlie. So as he hugs getting by. So what he means is that he will be there for the first task because of the dragons.
Yes.
So that's a little bit of a hint about the dragons. Maybe if Harry had thought about it a little bit harder, he could have figured it out by himself.
That's true. That's true. Yep. I do love that Charlie is like, just don't tell Percy I mentioned it. It's classified information until such a time that Ministry sees fit to release it after all.
Yes.
And I do like the fact that the whole Weasley family is just dunking on Percy.
Just everyone. Mrs. Weasley doesn't even like correct him here.
I know.
He's just like, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
And then Bill, very wistfully, yeah, I sort of wish I was back at Hogwarts this year. Might even get time off to come watch a bit of it. So annoying. But he does in fact get some time off to come watch the third task, as much as you could watch it through the hedges. But this is good foreshadowing because Bill's lone return to Hogwarts, he leaves basically with a fiance, you know?
It's true. That's what I was going to say. Yeah. So he's like, it says, I sort of wish I was back at Hogwarts this year. And it's like, Bill definitely would have been an obvious candidate for a Hogwarts champion.
Yeah.
Because he was like the head boy and, like the, Mr. Know-it-all. And not to mention, he was cool.
He was cool.
But it's also kind of fitting because if in fact he was still there and as a 7th year, and then Fleur was also there, it's like there's a very real possibility that like Bill would have competed against like his future wife.
I know.
So it's like, whoa, that's kind of crazy.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's kind of funny that he wishes he was back there, and it's like, boy, you sure do, man. You sure do.
Yes.
Your wife is there.
Your wife is there.
Yeah.
But yeah, then after I might even get a little bit of time to come by and watch a bit of it. A bit of what? Said Ron. I literally highlighted it and wrote, I'd explode.
I'd explode. I'd explode. Indeed. Let's see. And then Mrs. Weasley down here says, I'd invite you for Christmas, but, well, I expect you're going to want to stay at Hogwarts, what with one thing and another. And it's like, to which I highlighted, I was like, yeah, the dance is just such a huge success for everyone, you know?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Poor Ron. Oh, boy. But then he says, what do you three know that we don't? Just, again, so infuriating. Like all 3 of them drop a hint about it.
I'm just very glad they've changed the rules.
I know.
What rules?
I know, but it's like she didn't like live through it, right? It's been offline for more than 100 years.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like she had a Triwizard Tournament to watch.
What's up with that, Molly?
I know. Come on, like it changed the rules. You've never not only was it not happening when you were at school, and it wasn't happening 50 years before you were at school.
Right. Yes. Your parents didn't experience it. It's possible their parents didn't experience it.
Right. So whatever. I'm sure Professor Dumbledore will tell you. Now behave, won't you? Won't you, Fred, George? And then, which I think is just funny. And then they will find out later this very evening what the Triwizard Tournament is. Thankfully.
Yep. But at that very moment, the pistons hissed loudly and the train began to move. This is also kind of interesting because I feel like the wizarding world has no qualms about you entering a moving train.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
you know,
like,
it's just
whatever.
It feels so constant. Like they are never arriving at the train with enough time to just like comfortably put their stuff on it and chitter chatter and then like get back in, find their chair.
Oh, I know. They're always just like, this is the very last compartment. Guess we're going to share it with whatever sleeping adult is in here. Probably okay.
R.J. Lupin. He is actually quite great. So.
I know. Well, R.J. Lupin is great. If only anyone in this book could remember that for 3 seconds. Can you imagine if Harry was just like, why don't I write to Lupin for help with the Triwizard Tournament? He taught me about Patronuses, but I guess my godfather, who I knew for 30 seconds, was a better answer.
Right. Yes. It's like, because he was my dad's best friend, Lupin.
Best friend. He was only my second best friend. Worthless, basically.
Possibly even third if Wormtail was in front of him.
I know. We don't even know. Maybe James liked Peter more, you know?
Right. Yeah. That's the what if we all need. What if James liked Lupin least?
Yeah. Why? Yeah, I guess we know. I was going to say, why didn't Sirius? Yeah. After all, Sirius suggested Peter, not Lupin, but it's because Sirius. That right there is kind of funny because like Sirius thought Lupin was the spy and had more faith in like Lupin's dangerousness than Peter's, which was the wrong call. You know who doesn't have good instincts is Sirius.
Yeah, Sirius. He's not a good judge of character.
You know?
Yeah.
Not great. Not great. Oh, man. And then we have this line. So they're all like, you know, I wish someone would tell us what's happening. Bagman wanted to tell us what's happening at Hogwarts. That's just a quick, I feel like that line is in there just reminding you of Ludo Bagman. Haven't mentioned him in a while. He wasn't just a character for the World Cup. He will be coming back.
Yes, that's a very good point. And I mean, it's just like everything else that we've been dealing with, all this like new wizard tech. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, this is the thing. Hey, don't forget about this because this is the thing.
This is the thing.
Yeah. You need to know these people, these bits.
Yep. Then we hear the familiar drawling voice, which is a word almost exclusively used for Malfoy.
I know that would be like a fun one to go through and just figure out how many times in the book the word drawling is used and trying to see if it's always associated with Malfoy.
No, drawling and sneer.
Sneer
is the other one. He's always got that drawling, sneering look about him.
Father actually considered sending me to Durmstrang rather than Hogwarts, you know. He knows the headmaster. So that's what I was talking about earlier because like Moody, we get that like piece of information that like he's put like all of the Death Eaters in Azkaban.
Yeah.
Which will also come up later because one thing that Barty Crouch Jr., as Mad Eye will say, is there's nothing I hate more than a Death Eater who walked free.
Yes.
And that is an actual sentiment of Death Eater Barty Crouch Jr., not Mad Eye Moody, despite the fact that Mad Eye Moody's job is to put people in Azkaban.
Oh, I know. And so he especially hates Karkaroff because Karkaroff was incarcerated and got out by naming other Death Eaters.
Exactly.
Possibly, well, I don't know. Is he the one who names Barty Crouch Jr.? In the movie, that's certainly it.
In the movie, he definitely does. He's like, Barty Crouch
Junior.
Yeah.
Happens to be in the room. What do you know?
What do you know?
Would have been a great opportunity to introduce us to Bellatrix there, but whatever.
You want to know what else is in the room? Is just an unrealistic amount of paperwork.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I think like Barty Crouch Jr. like shoots forward and like somebody like stuns him and he falls on like 4,000 sheets of paper.
Yeah, too much paper.
Way too much paper.
Yeah.
Anyway, not the point. But yes, so this is he knows the headmaster. This is total red herring bait. Because like when we go back to the Quidditch World Cup, like you basically run into the drawling voiced Draco Malfoy in the woods while the Death Eaters are doing all their antics with the who is the name of our guy?
What?
Who runs the campground?
Oh, yeah.
You'd think we'd remember.
You'd think we'd remember it from just like a few. Mr. Roberts.
Mr. Roberts' family.
Yes.
Yeah. And basically the idea there is that like they're kind of Malfoy is basically telling them like my dad is one of those people.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So now it's like coming into the school year where we're going to meet Karkaroff. It's like, we know that Draco's dad knows him.
Yes.
He's going to seem like a very suspicious person.
He does. And I mean, he in fact was a Death Eater. He also, this is the first time we hear mention of Durmstrang. We've heard of Beauxbaton a little bit before now, but this is like, this one sort of slipped in right under the line here because you're going to find out that Durmstrang and Beauxbaton are the two schools competing in just the next chapter.
Yes, indeed.
So had we not been introduced to Durmstrang here, you'd only be learning about them for the first time in the next chapter.
So once again, we just got to get that like little bit of like setup. That
little bit of setup there.
That way we're not cold starting you when it comes to it.
Exactly. And it's interesting how you've been introduced to each school, like that like Hermione considered the Beauxbaton students at the World Cup to be a little bit snooty. Now we're finding out that the Durmstrang school is kind of like dark artsy. So you're like, oh yeah, they're probably not good. They're probably not good. Watch out for that champion. He's probably not a good guy. And it's like Karkaroff actually like, it's like he's not a great guy, but he definitely is no longer interested in being a Death Eater.
Yes, yeah. It's it's funny because it's like we almost judge him. It's like, wow, he's not even brave enough to go back and be a Death Eater. And it's like, wait, no, that's a good thing.
No, that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's what we prefer.
That is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, he's not about like cheating in the tournament, but like everyone's cheating. So.
Everyone's cheating, yeah. I mean, it's like, but like Hagrid's version of it feels so much more like, oh.
Well, for Harry, you're kind of like, we're like, Harry didn't even want to be in here. He's being forced to do this. Like maybe he deserves a leg up or something.
Like a handicap on all the others. Yeah,
I know. And it's like, yeah, but like, like you think of Karkaroff as being like very sneaky because he shows up by himself to look at the dragons, whereas like Madame Maxime is like escorted. Like she finds out of the maybe she wouldn't have found out about the dragons,
True.
Maybe not. Who's to say? But she does. But like you don't feel mad at her for cheating.
True.
Yeah.
True. But when Karkaroff does it, it's like, why?
That guy.
Why I oughta?
What's interesting to me is that Dumbledore and Karkaroff and Madame Maxime are judges, and they themselves didn't know. Are we supposed to understand that Dumbledore didn't know the first task would be dragons?
He has to know.
He has to know.
Yeah,
that's bananas to me that they don't already know. Like the task is a mystery even to the headmasters of the schools of the people competing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like
Right.
Dumbledore definitely knew. So it's like Hagrid almost doesn't need to take Madame Maxime because she should just also know.
She should just know.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
That's a good point. That's a
Yes.
good point. Yeah,
Yeah, Dumbledore is the only headmaster not cheating for his students.
that's true. Unless he's over there with Cedric and he's like, "Hey man, I got some tips for you.
I got some tips.
Do you know how to transform a rock into a Labrador? Because if not,
Yeah, Cedric. I mean, even that. I guess. Mad-Eye's not even counting on Harry telling Cedric. He just does it.
true.
Which then he uses to his advantage by telling Cedric about the egg, knowing that Cedric will repay the favor, which he does.
Good people are so easy to manipulate.
I know. That's what he says.
I hate that sentiment.
I hate that sentence so much.
Be a good person. You will not be manipulated.
No
It'll be
good
okay.
deed, Ben. No good deed goes unpunished, as they say.
I know. I don't like it.
I don't like it.
Yeah. Anyway, so we do learn though that Durmstrang is certainly known for actively teaching the dark arts rather than defense against, which is like basically like what Malfoy is complaining about. And so like part of me is actually just wondering here, because if this is like an actual establishment that's respected enough to be involved in the Triwizard Tournament, then it's like, is there a functional purpose behind teaching dark arts?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. That's a good question.
right. Like if I'm trying to like run like a through line here, but like if defense against the dark arts would be like the version of like learning, how to go out and be like a wizarding police officer, basically. Like
Right.
you're equipped to disarm dangerous people. It's like, would this be more like our equivalent of like a military academy?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to say because like do you imagine I imagine Aurors still might need to use some dark arts, sometimes.
Like go more offensive rather than just purely defensive.
Right. Like ideally be defensive, but like situations may call for such things.
Right.
Or
right.
you might be against like magical creatures or plants or something.
Right.
That you would need. I don't know.
I suppose there's like some like layer where Harry himself can't really perform like Crucio on Bellatrix in Order of the Phoenix because he's just like, you really got to mean it.
He uses Imperio though.
He does use Imperio. That's a good point. In Deathly Hallows, where he's got a bit more training, to be fair. But like if Dumbledore knows that who he believes to be Mad Eye is teaching the unforgivable curses, then at least it's somewhat understandable that Dumbledore would believe that Mad Eye is capable of performing those curses.
That's true.
Which you could only do if you're capable of performing some dark arts.
Well, I mean, and it, by definition, if you're teaching defense against the dark arts, you need to be teaching people what you're defending against. So you will be learning about the dark arts.
That's also true.
Yeah.
That's also true.
And I guess some of defense against the dark arts. So that's like, what are some of the things they are like specifically learning? Like about Dementors, about werewolves, stuff like that.
Sure.
So if you're teaching the dark arts, then what are you teaching? It's like, I guess you'd still be learning about Dementors, just maybe not, I don't know.
Well, I mean, to me, I feel like it would come down to like what Harry's doing in the graveyard versus what like Voldemort's doing in the graveyard. Like Harry always goes for a disarming spell, whereas Voldemort always goes for like a very like offensive like die spell.
Right. Yeah. It's very Cobra Kai.
Strike
first.
Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly. No mercy. Anyway, Cobra Kai never die. Gotta watch that last season. Like I've been so on that show, and they came out with like the final 6 episodes, and I just haven't watched them yet.
Come on, man.
I know.
Maybe they're great. Maybe they finally learned that striking first is not the correct way.
I mean, the good guys always know that,
Yeah.
Although, but it's I don't want to talk about Cobra Kai because I'll just talk about it too much. I love that show is so fun. It's like so much better than it has any reason to be, but
there you go.
But there you go. It's so silly. Anyway, this is in the same way that you were zoned out about Mad Eye, you were being zoned out about Durmstrang, basically. Horrible reputation, bad stuff. Especially a lot of it comes from Hermione as well, which is going to be funny because Crumb is going to ask her to the ball.
True.
Yep.
True.
And she's going to like rise above all of that. And it turns out that like Crumb is just a great guy, Like you're going to just kind of like distrust him for a while and be like suspicious of him because of all the things that are being said in this chapter.
Yeah, but I mean, Crumb largely, like when it really comes down to it, is just like a victim of a lot of like Barty Crouch Jr.'s antics.
Yes.
Like even down to being like Imperious and then using Crucio on like Fleur.
Yeah.
It's like, that
He didn't
sucks.
do that.
Yeah, it's like, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to have that happen to them. So
But in the meantime, it's like he is clearly an extremely gifted flyer who cares a lot. He's the best seeker in the entire world, and he spends most of his time basically just preparing for the tournament.
Right.
Like he's in the library studying, like apparently trying to work up the courage to ask out Hermione, but he's not just staring at blank pages.
Right. I mean, he's smart enough to know how to do these things.
Right. He's very studious,
Right.
He's diving into the lake and practicing for the second task and all that stuff. So
he's a hard worker.
He's a hard worker.
Hey, he'd be a Hufflepuff.
Puts in the reps.
You
think he'd be a Hufflepuff?
Maybe.
Where would Crumb be? I think you're right. He might be a Hufflepuff.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd be a Slytherin.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no. I don't think
Even
so.
though I
Or
think
he could, you know what? He's probably just a Gryffindor.
He could be Gryffindor.
Gryffindor.
He looks good in red.
Looks good in red.
We know it.
We know it. I don't like that about the movies either, where they're like, this is the blue girls' school and this is the red boys' school. And it's like, there are boys and girls
at
from
both schools.
There's no reason to
to have these be gendered.
to have these be gendered. Like, whatever.
It's okay.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. They'll fix it, hopefully.
They will. We have faith.
Again, Ron has not heard of Durmstrang, though. Moving on.
Well,
or
he says
vaguely.
He says, I think I've heard of it, said Ron vaguely. Where is it? What country? Well, nobody knows, do they? Said Hermione, raising her eyebrows. Why not? Said Harry. There's traditionally been a lot of rivalry between all the magic schools. Durmstrang and Beauxbatons like to conceal their whereabouts so nobody can steal their secrets. And it's like she sort of phrases this in a way that makes it sound like Hogwarts isn't also involved in this exact same practice. But then she does go on to say, but Hogwarts is hidden.
I know. She's like almost baits them a little bit.
It's like Durmstrang and Beauxbaton like to conceal where they are.
Yeah.
So do we.
Yeah, like she's being very like biased or whatever. It's like, oh, Bo Baton and Durmstrang, they like to conceal their whereabouts, not like Hogwarts, which conceals its whereabouts,
but in a good way.
In a way that makes sense,
In a way that is totally also trivia because we've been asked like 1,000 times. But
yes.
If a Muggle looks at it, all they see is a moldering old ruin with a sign over the entrance saying, "Danger, do not enter. Unsafe." Yeah.
That's it.
So that's the line. I always think it's smoldering.
Oh.
As if smoke is still coming out of like whatever it was.
Yes. And this is the line too that often gets like the moldering old ruin, but is it manky old boot?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. These two lines, which basically mean the same thing.
Would you ever say a manky old ruin?
I wouldn't say a manky old ruin. You're right, but I would say a moldering old boot.
I mean, that seems reasonable.
Yeah.
I would assume that probably in that capacity, they're fairly similar descriptors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
draw a picture of a manky old boot. Now draw a picture of a moldering old boot.
Right.
It's the same image.
Exactly. But you wouldn't say a smoldering old boot.
You wouldn't.
It's just kind of been like lightly on fire for like a couple of years.
Maybe if Harry hadn't learned Osseo, then we would have seen what a smoldering boot looked like.
Yeah, right.
All that was left was his boot.
A smoldering old boot. There we go. Let's see. And this is a confusing line here too, because Hermione says she's describing how it might other schools might be concealed, and says, and to keep foreign wizards from finding it, they'll have made it unplottable. Which she says, well, you can enchant a building so it's impossible to plot on a map, can't you? And it's like, but like, what about the Marauders map? But here's my explanation for that, because like either Hogwarts isn't unplottable because they made a map of it,
right?
Or the explanation is that you couldn't, if you had a map of the greater area, you couldn't put Hogwarts Castle on it, but that doesn't mean you can't make a map of the inside of Hogwarts Castle.
That would be my interpretation, I think, is what it really comes down to. Because otherwise, like, when the Durmstrang students are arriving and they're clearly being handed pamphlets on how to find their way around the castle, what would those pamphlets say?
Man, they're not giving pamphlets. So Harry and Ron didn't have pamphlets. They're running into doors, walls pretending to be doors, and moving staircases, and they just got to figure it out. McGonagall has no sympathy. She's like, "You're late, boys.
You're late. Maybe I should turn one of you into a pocket watch."
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although that would be not okay. You're not supposed to transfigure the students as forms of punishment.
Yeah, she's the very one who says that.
Yeah.
So. Jeez, McGonagall, get off your high horse.
Hypocrite. More like hippogriff.
I was gonna say it. Oh, good save.
Oh, let's see. And then Ron loves dreamily says, think of they're talking about Malfoy again. He says, think of the possibilities. It would have been so easy to push Malfoy off a glacier and make it look like an accident. Shame his mother likes him. And it's like, dude, your school's on a cliff. I think,
Yeah, there are plenty of high edges.
Plenty of accident-prone. No accidents happen at Hogwarts ever.
Also, the Seamus mother likes him, which I think is hilarious, is also kind of one of those like, is that what's stopping you? It's like I would push him off a very high surface to a great fall / death.
Right.
However, his mother does like him.
His mother does like him.
I shall refrain.
I know. I guess what he's saying is it's too bad she sent him to Hogwarts instead of Durmstrang. Yeah. Because she likes him, so she wants him to be nearby.
That makes way more sense.
Yeah.
That makes way more sense.
If only she didn't like him and sent him to Durmstrang, we could have pushed him off a glacier. Instead, she does like him, so he's just at Hogwarts where we can't push him off a cliff.
There's nothing we can push him off. No opportunities.
I'd be happy. It would have been so easy to murder him if only he'd gone to a different school. Although, whatever. We'll move past that. Neville, I can't believe this. So then Seamus and Neville and Dean walk in and they all swap stories about the Quidditch World Cup, and Hermione just starts learning summoning charms. More set up for later in the year when Harry's going to have to perform his big summoning charm. Neville, unbelievably, his grandmother didn't want to go to the Quidditch World Cup. I find it hard to believe, quite frankly.
Same here. This seems like a great opportunity to go and show Neville more of who he should be.
Exactly. I know. Be like, hey, maybe you should be out there. Maybe you should be trying out for Quidditch, Neville. Be a little braver.
Right.
Something like that.
You barely even broke your wrist the first time.
I know.
You're fine.
Come on. It just seems like she has such wizard pride.
I know.
She would know so many people.
Right.
I don't understand.
It's surprising she's not there.
It's very surprising she's not there. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But whatever. It's not a great excuse for Ron to whip out his ever-present action figure of Victor Crumb come and show Neville.
Dude, Neville's response is, "Oh, wow." In italics, said Neville enviously. And I mean, to which I was just like, is this really like, oh, wow, worthy?
I know.
Like to me, I can't tell if this is almost like, because it is so almost nearly like a Muggle action figure, is it sort of got like a kind of novelty to it that like wizard kids are sort of like, check it out.
I know.
It's a plastic figurine.
Yeah, he can move. I know. All I can think is that wizard toys are typically, I don't know. It feels like whoever made this, like, did some Muggle studies, went to a Toys R Us, was like, oh, this is what Muggles use. I get it immediately. I get it. I understand why this is fun.
Right.
They look up to people. Okay, cool. Here's what I'm gonna do. Most popular sports player, Victor Crumb. Cool. Got it. I'm gonna make an action figure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make an action figure. I'm gonna make it move. I'm gonna give it the newspaper treatment. You know, it's not like Muggle action figures. This one's gonna move.
It's even better.
It's gonna have his mannerisms. People are gonna love it. They're never going to have seen anything like it in this world.
It's oh wow worthy.
It will blow their minds. Yeah.
Hence.
And apparently it does.
Yeah.
Hence, wow. Yep. Anyway, this is when Draco and Crabbe and Goyle show up to make fun of everybody, as is per usual on the train. They're just like, you know what we haven't done yet, boys? You know what we haven't done? Let's go find Harry. Let's go find Harry and just say some mean things. That sound fun?
Y'all bored? I'm bored.
I'm bored. Apparently, they're only like one compartment over though, so it's like not even much of a trip for them.
No.
There wasn't even like, maybe we'll go down to the drink cart and we'll see if we can find Potter to make fun of him. It was like, let's see if we can find. Oh, he's right here, man.
We barely got to kill any time.
I know this is waste any time at all. But as it were, Ron has the worst luck in the world, and the sleeve of his dress robe is dangling from it.
The worst.
Yes. I love that Malfoy immediately jumps to the exact conclusion. He knows exactly what it is, which I think speaks more to Malfoy than we're giving credit for. He sees this. His knowledge of 1890s wizard fashion is on point.
On point.
He knows a lot.
He skips 0 beats.
He skips 0 beats. He's like, what's that? Oh my God, that's an 1890 men's dress robe. Weasley's got one. Oh my God. Ah! Like, he doesn't think it's like Ginny's or Hermione's. Or he knows immediately that this is Ron's dress robes.
Right. Yes, exactly. It's like, it's almost to the point where like, I feel like Harry could have chimed in and been like, kind of odd that you know the exact decade is from, Malfoy.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
You've been studying up on.
Studied up. You going into wizard fashion after this? Gonna open your own robe shop?
Honestly, that'd be completely fine. Do that. I mean, Madame Malkins could really use a run for her money.
I know, absolutely.
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
a little bit of competition there. Maybe down Nocturne Alley. You
Right.
know, gets your dark arts robes or whatever. That sounds bad. Don't do that. And then Ron says, "Eat dung, Malfoy," to which he says, "Eat slugs" back in Chamber of Secrets, and then eventually casts that spell, which makes me wonder, like, if Ron had his wand out here, could he have made this happen?
Like dung just come pouring out of his.
This sounds like a really bad spell.
It seems like a really bad smell.
Smell too.
You know, I misspoke, but I stand by it.
Yeah.
But yeah, here's what I love about this line is it says, "Eat dung, Malfoy," said Ron, the same color as the dress robes. Oh my gosh, I read this completely wrong and thought that this was the narrator trolling Ron, basically suggesting that the dung that Malfoy should be eating is the same color as his dress robes.
Oh,
and so the narrator
eat maroon dung, Malfoy.
Wow, I read that totally wrong. I was
Wow.
like, that is hilarious. The narrator is just like really like ripping on Ron right now.
No, he's just, definitely. Ron's just embarrassed.
Okay.
His face is flushed.
Yes, that makes more sense. Yes. I like my interpretation though.
I like it too.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, just Malfoy, just heaving up maroon dung.
Maroon dung.
There we
That's
go.
right. That's right.
And then Malfoy starts just goading everyone with the same information as the rest of the Weasleys. Says, "I suppose you'll enter, Potter. Are you going to enter?" Like, I wonder if he's like really curious about this. He's like, but like, are you going to enter? Like, are you guys going to do it? Are you guys going to do it?
I mean, that's the thing because it's like, if anything, I feel like he's kind of like ripping on Harry here, and he's like, "I suppose you will, Potter. You never miss a chance to show off, do you?" And it's like, as if you could, you wouldn't.
I know.
Like Draco absolutely seems like he would put his name in.
Well, okay, yes, I'm glad you said that. And it's also, you never missed a chance to show off, do you? And it's like, dude, the reason he showed off in front of everyone in the first place is because you took Neville's Remember All. All right, it's your fault he's on the Quidditch team.
Oh, right.
Okay.
And you were the one who was showing off.
You were the one who was showing off. You giant hippogriff.
Nailed it.
Thank you.
Wow, on fire today.
Oh, man. But let's see. But then he realizes that they don't know about the Triwizard Tournament. And he says, don't tell me you don't know. You've got a father and a brother at the ministry and you don't even know? My God, my father told me about it ages ago. Heard it from Cornelius Fudge. So whether or not Draco would enter, I think here's what I think. I think because his dad knew about it and he told him, apparently no one knows about the age rule. I think Lucius has been like, Draco, I expect you to enter.
Oh,
I think Lucius is expecting Draco to win the tournament.
Yep, I could 100% see that.
And I think Draco is nervous about it, and he's like, "You guys entering? You guys like?" He's like hiding his insecurity by making fun of them. He's like, "But like seriously, you guys gonna do it? Because like I really don't want to do it."
I mean, even goading Harry into doing it, it's probably like, Harry, you're gonna enter, right? Like, because if you do,
there's no way it's gonna put my name out.
It's like I need to. I mean, game respects game a little bit here. Like,
I know.
I'm scared.
I think he wants Harry to enter because he knows it'll pick Harry instead of him, and then he can just make fun of Harry the whole time, and that's a way better job. He'd so much rather complain about Harry being in it than being in it himself.
Exactly.
I think 1,000% Lucius isn't like his full expectation is for Draco to enter and win this tournament.
Yes. If anything, it even seems like that's part of why he would have told him so early.
Exactly.
So Draco could be like preparing.
I know. And then I saw also the mention that he knows Cornelius Fudge. That like one page ago we were saying that like, we overheard him saying my father knows Karkaroff or whatever.
Right.
So it's like this is like what you're gonna find out as a Death Eater. So it's also just kind of like this helps set up Fudge's kind of like big downfall in the next book where he's just gonna like ignore Voldemort's return.
Yeah.
He's like already rubbing shoulders with the wrong people.
Yeah. Yep. He chose the wrong allies.
Yep.
Let's see here. But then he starts like kind of like dishing on Arthur, it's kind of like they probably don't talk about important stuff in front of him. This is when they finally just sort of like disappear and Ron slams the door shut, to which Hermione immediately repairs. But Ron does follow up with the line like, Dad could have gotten a promotion anytime. He just likes it where he is. And it's funny because I'm like, I think this is what me and you have been saying for like chapters now.
Yes.
It's like, and I think Ron is correct.
Yeah.
It's
he's
like
not just being defensive.
Right. It's like Arthur is good.
Yeah.
And it does seem like, based on everybody who came up and talked to him at the Quidditch World Cup, he's very respected.
Yes, very much so. And then what is it? Hermione even like agrees and was like, of course he does. Don't let Malfoy get to you. And Ron's like, him get to me?
As if it's like
so chill, dude. So chill.
You just shattered a glass door and you are now currently
squashing a cauldron cake
into a pulp.
A pulp. Indeed. And I think, so what's interesting though, I think this is good setup, not just for later in the book when Ron is going to like turn on Harry for like half the book or whatever, or just not talk to him. But it's also good foreshadowing for like Deathly Hallows because what you're seeing very consistent with his character is that like Ron gets extremely moody when someone is like poking at his insecurities, which is exactly what Draco's doing. He's just being like, you're poor, like you couldn't, and you don't know what the information is. Your dad, isn't good at his job. And it's like Ron, and he's losing it,
Yeah.
He's like, it makes him so angry. And like later on, he's going to feel jealous of Harry and he's going to stop talking to him for a little bit.
You're absolutely right. Like it's actually really interesting because like Malfoy comes in there to like kind of like annoy them basically to be mean.
Yeah.
But the only person he can really be mean to is Ron.
It's the only person he gets through to. So I say all that to actually defend Ron.
Okay.
Up in Deathly Hallows because here this is just Draco just like basically teasing him on the train, poking at his insecurities very like lightly.
Right.
And it's like getting to him. If you fast forward to Deathly Hallows, Ron is having to wear the locket, an instrument of extreme evil.
Right.
That sole purpose is to sow insecurity and to poke all of your doubts. And he has to wear it for 12 hours every other day.
Right.
And we already know he's susceptible to this. And in the meantime, he's starving. And he makes it, and it's not Draco teasing him, it's Lord Voldemort torturing him.
Yes.
And he makes it a really long time.
It's true.
Before finally breaking.
Right.
And like abandoning the trio. So it's like his growth from this point to Deathly Hallows, I think, is tremendous in this regard.
Yes.
And he's just up against such terrible evil by the end.
That's a very good point. It's a very good point. Yeah. So it kind of goes to show that like maybe even it's kind of like it's just something that Dumbledore like it kind of goes back to that phrase. It's like he must have always known I was going to leave. It's like and Harry's always like, he always knew you were going to come back.
Yeah.
I don't know why I gave him a bit of a Seamus-y accent there.
Harry gets very Irish when he's doling out wisdom, you know.
What if Harry was from Ireland?
Who knows?
No, I like that. But I lost my train of thinking.
Oh no. Ron. Insecurities. Locket. Cauldron cakes. Draco.
I lost it.
Okay. Well, if you come back to it.
I will. Yeah, I'll shout it at you.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see here. As the train doors open, though, there was a rumble of thunder overhead, which is just sort of, again, this very ominous storm that seems to be existing in and around the whole country.
Indeed.
There's a massive downpour going on. It feels like buckets of ice cold water are being emptied repeatedly over their heads. They run into Hagrid, and he's like, see you at the feast if we don't drown. And it's like, man.
I know. Could you imagine if this was your first? I guess this is Dennis Creevy's first year.
Because he falls
and he
in.
falls in the lake. And the squid picks him up. And he's like, that was the best. Yeah. I know. So.
But like, he is a Gryffindor. So.
He is, I know. Real Gryffindor energy from young Dennis Creevy there.
Big time bravery. But it really would be so intimidating if you were like a Muggle-born first year.
Yeah.
Because like
Which he is,
yes. I mean, it's like he does have an older sibling, so he has a little bit of
wild that they're like Muggle-born wizard siblings.
Yeah. It's just in their blood, man.
It's in their blood, I guess.
They're like determined. They're destined.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like as kind of like silly and annoying as they can, be at times, like they are innately good people.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, this would be so intimidating. Crossing the lake in that type of downpour when you're just not even used to anything about the wizarding world yet. But then Harry, Ron, Hermione get to take one of the carriages drawn by the horseless carriages,
yes.
If I can get my words out properly. And this is another one of those like big questions where it's like, why doesn't Harry see them?
Well, he shouldn't yet, right?
Well, I mean, he was in the room when his mom died.
I guess he's in the room when his mom died. In a way, he saw Frank Bryce die.
In a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. I guess the big question there is almost like, is he too young when Lily dies? Like, because he has like vague recollections of it. Like, we know that much.
Yeah.
And he can even, like, when the Dementors are around, he can even hear his mother's voice.
He can hear the voice. He can see the flash. Maybe the flash like obscures the actual death happening or something.
Right.
Like, how specific do we need to be? It's hard to say because this is a huge. I mean, the writing around the Thestrals, I would say, is not great.
At
times, because like you're right, there's arguments that he should already be able to see them. There's arguments that other students absolutely do see them already, and nobody mentions it at all. And even when we get to Cedric, not only will Harry still not perceive them on the ride back to the train at the end of the book,
right?
Having seen Cedric die, if you read the section where Cedric actually does die, his eyes aren't even open. In fact, they're tightly closed, word for word.
Yeah.
So he does not see Cedric die. So why Harry can eventually see them then is up for debate as well.
It certainly is. And the other thing is, I think that Neville can also see the Thestrals because he saw like his uncle die.
Yes.
And it says that Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Neville climbed gratefully into one of them.
Right.
So it's like that conversation could happen right now, unless it just doesn't occur to Neville that the other three can't see them.
You must have to assume it. Like, to them, it's all horseless, and to them, they've always been horses.
Right,
and he's just sort of like, why would I mention it?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good point. Yeah, it's like maybe it just doesn't come up. But there is a person present who is actively seeing Thestrals.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
But anyway, that does bring us basically up to the castle and to the end of the chapter.
I know. I love that the final words of this one are splashing its way up the track toward Hogwarts Castle. It's like, we're here!
We're home!
We made it! it.
Unless you live at the borough, in which case you're at school.
Yeah.
But yes, very, very fun chapter indeed. And Jay, as per always, do you have a review for us?
I do. This is from Gail the Griffin. She says, great podcast. I love this podcast. I look forward to it every Sunday, and you make such interesting points, though I must admit I often wish I could put in a comment of my own. Well, that I feel like is the mark of good podcasting.
Aha, yes.
You know?
It's like if you're ever like pausing the podcast to be like,
wait a minute.
Let's discuss. Do we agree? Do we disagree? Yes.
That I know. Whenever I'm doing that, I'm always like, oh, I'm listening. These guys they've hit a good point.
Yes. Yeah. Or
I need to weigh in out loud to nobody else in the car.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So I love it if that's happening.
I know. But I have a question. What would have happened if Snape had always been on Dumbledore's side all the way through the war? Would Voldemort still have heard the prophecy? If so, how much would he have heard? How would he have learned about it? And would his course of action be the same? If not, what would he have done instead? And what would Harry's life be like? Boy, it's a big question because obviously that changes literally everything. But so let's see. Assuming that Snape just never joined Voldemort and was never in a Death Eater at all and was always Dumbledore's man.
Okay. So always Dumbledore's man. Do we still assume adversaries of James and Lily? Or is it possible? Because like Lily seems to really start to like have issues with Snape because he's hanging out with like Mulciber and
Avery,
who we know are Death Eaters. So I guess there's some question as to that, but really Lily's dislike of Snape and eventual like breakage of friendship with him has more to do with Snape's allegiances than it does the opposition with James.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Yes. I mean, Snape's dislike of James is because he likes Lily.
Yes. Yeah. So that part probably wouldn't change. We can assume
that. Yes. But like if Snape, let's just like, I mean, I would wager that Snape's reasoning for siding with the Order of the Phoenix the first time around would be in an ongoing effort to try and impress Lily.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So basically, instead of being like so infatuated with the dark arts, his infatuation with Lily like wins out, and so he just decides to continue to walk that particular path. If that's the case, do we know why Snape is at the Hog's Head the night that Dumbledore is interviewing Trelawney?
Spying.
He's spying on behalf of Voldemort?
Yes.
Okay. So that doesn't happen.
Right.
Okay.
So Dumbledore gets the prophecy, and he knows of it.
And then and I mean, from there, the big thing is that if Dumbledore can successfully get past the period of time where Voldemort would mark Harry as his equal, then the prophecy would just never come to be. But I don't know what the statute of limitations is on that particular aspect of the prophecy.
Well, I know. That's the tricky part. So let's see. Dumbledore hears the prophecy, but Voldemort doesn't. Dumbledore will still know that it could be Neville or Harry. Still hides them.
Yep.
But Voldemort does not know that the one with the power to defeat the Dark Lord approaches.
Right.
He does not know that. Dumbledore doesn't necessarily put stock by the prophecy. But he might enough to hide those two.
Right.
So there's that.
Do you think that could like potentially, if leaked, because Peter could still betray?
Maybe that's the problem. Well, but it doesn't matter because Voldemort is only really targeting the babies because of the prophecy.
Right. But if Peter were to leak the information that the Potters are being hidden, like specifically, then that could be like, it's like, I don't know why they're being hidden.
Right.
But for some reason, this family and the Longbottoms are both being hidden from you.
Right.
Like, that could be the type of thing where it's like, that raises a huge red flag. It's like, well, why are they being hidden?
Right.
Why are those people?
Okay.
Especially because also they both have to have defied Voldemort 3 times.
Yes.
So it's like, that means that 3 people are, that means that 2 couples, Frank and Alice and James and Lily, who have successfully gotten out of Voldemort-related binds on numerous occasions, are now the ones being like set aside.
Right.
And it's like, why them? They're like your best people.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. So Peter could absolutely pass that information, and he would at least still, I assume, be the secret keeper for
The Potters.
Yep. Per series or whatever. So he could still betray them, and Voldemort could still just be like, what an opportunity.
Right.
However, then though, there's no Snape pleading with Voldemort.
Ooh.
So there's no like giving you the chance to live situation.
Yep.
Yeah. Would he care about killing Harry though, or would he be more just interested in killing James and Lily?
That's an interesting question.
Right?
That's a very interesting question. Yeah, because chances are in that particular situation, you wouldn't immediately assume, you would assume the people who have thrice defied you are the threats.
Right.
Now
although, if you know that it's the Longbottoms and the Potters, and they both have newborn children, and that's the
common linkage.
The common link, maybe it is something about the babies.
Right.
So maybe he still goes to finish them off, but he probably, I hate to say he's successful in killing Harry, but he might just be.
Well, I mean, that's the big question though, isn't it? Because like it says that we'll mark him as his equal. And so it's like the prophecy would almost require circumstances to arise to such an effect.
Yeah.
Like, because that is what the prophecy would suggest.
Yeah.
So it's like, we know based on the circumstances of the universe that we live in that it has to deal with Snape pleading for Lily to be spared.
Mm-hmm.
But that means something else will have had to have happened. A different kind of opposition will have had to have arisen. Otherwise, the prophecy is inaccurate.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
I do see what you mean. I suppose it's possible that if Snape is just part of the Order from the beginning, is he still a spy in the Death Eater camp?
Well, no, that's a thought.
Right? Like maybe he's being put to the same use. His allegiance is just genuinely to Dumbledore the entire time.
The entire time.
So then if he knows that the Potters are being hidden, and then he knows Peter, maybe not Peter, but maybe he doesn't have to know that it was Peter, just that the Potters are under fire.
Right.
He can then
maybe ask.
Use his, just position in the camp to say, don't kill Lily.
I mean, he could even, if he's the one who's bringing the information in some way.
He doesn't have to tell them that it's a prophecy.
Right. Snape could still just be the leak then instead of Peter. Peter could still just be the way that he...
Because Snape won't know about the prophecy, though.
Snape will not know about the prophecy. That's a good point.
Yeah, no one will know about the prophecy except Dumbledore now.
Except Dumbledore.
Yeah.
So then it depends on how good Dumbledore is at puppeteering everyone else.
Right.
Especially Snape.
Yeah.
Which I would argue he's pretty good at doing.
Yep.
And if Snape's whole objective in being in the Order of the Phoenix is basically just to maintain proximity to Lily, then one way or another, even if like Snape ends up in front of Voldemort and has his audience, maybe he still just asks for it.
Sure.
Because that would be, then if you're Snape, you could still be aligned with the right people. You could be there on Dumbledore's orders and see an opportunity to get James and Harry out of the equation.
Right.
Which is terrible.
Right. That's quite terrible. But it would still set up Harry getting marked.
So I would almost think then what happens is if Snape was in Dumbledore's camp from the beginning, then I think you almost end up having the inverse situation arise, which is that like normally it's this whole situation that is so powerful that brings Snape to the good side. I would almost say that the situation would be so powerful that it would like force Snape into the bad side because he would have done something so irredeemable that like he couldn't come back. Does that make sense? Like instead of being instead of growing up at Hogwarts as a Death Eater and becoming a part of the Order of the Phoenix, he would have been a member of the Order of the Phoenix and then become a Death Eater by way of effectively being so selfish as to ask for Lily to be spared as a double agent on behalf of Dumbledore in Voldemort's camp.
And then he just feels so bad about it.
I don't think that he feels so bad about it. It just feels like the magical forces at bay would just force this outcome.
Well, but I mean, I think, I think Harry will still get marked no matter what.
He has to.
And it's because either way, either Snape is a Death Eater and asks Voldemort, or is spying on behalf of Dumbledore and realizes what's going to happen and asks Voldemort. And Harry still gets marked. And that's how that's going to go.
Boom.
But that is going to do it for this episode of the show. Make sure you join us next week for Chapter 12, the Tri-Wizard Tournament, here on Through the Griffin Door.
Today's episode was edited by Ethan Edghill. Vaishon Brandon does our art. Catherine Stein is our production manager, and the show is hosted by me and Jonathan Carlin.